We're following the very latest developments from Capitol Hill, where lawmakers have until midnight to prevent a government shutdown. Last night, House Republicans failed to pass a Trump-backed proposal. Senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now from the White House to discuss. Ed, good to see you, my friend. So how is the White House feeling about these negotiations? And what are they signaling, if any signals at all, that they would sign an agreement, given that they were prepared to sign the one that was rejected last night?
They continue to monitor things over here, but are remaining pretty quiet publicly, Vlad, in touch with congressional Democrats, who, of course, let's remember, still control the Senate, as they watch the House try to sort out what, if anything, it can get passed and then sent over to the Senate. The deal that was rejected last night would have been rejected if taken up at all in the Democratic-controlled Senate, because it essentially had none of those things that had been in the original agreement released earlier in the week. The Democrats had told Republicans would be needed to be in there in order to get their votes. And so given the closely divided nature of the House, the even closer divided nature of the Senate, bipartisanship is what's needed to get these big bills passed. And so far, at least, Republicans signaling this morning again, they have no intention of negotiating with Democrats. So as long as that continues, all the White House does is tell federal agencies and the federal employees potentially affected, prepare for a shutdown that would begin at midnight tonight. If you're deemed essential or non-essential, you know what to do. And eventually, no matter how long an impasse runs, you would get your back pay. And that's what's expected. Of course, what complicates things in each of these agencies and with each of these programs is we're entering the holiday season where people were going to be off anyway. You know, do I have to worry about whether I'm paid during the vacation? The general answer, because we've seen a few of these in years past, is yes. Everyone gets back paid if you were supposed to be paid during an impasse caused by lawmakers who couldn't come to an agreement. The question at that point would just be, how long will this go, and who will be in charge of Congress once it's resolved? Because January 3rd, of course, we flip to a new Congress that would be completely Republican-controlled.
Ed, why do you think we haven't heard yet from President Biden?
It's not his problem. This is a problem of the Republicans' making, is what this White House would tell you. And in their view, the solution is simple: pass that bipartisan plan, and he'll sign it. But it's true that he has been rather removed in recent weeks from all activities, but especially any conversation with Congress about this short-term spending plan. Their hope had been that this would have been the kind of plan that would take things all the way through the end of the fiscal year, through next late September, and that it could have included some legacy burnishing items that are of concern to the president. And now that it's clear that it's going to be some kind of a short-term deal, there's less interest and concern for them to be involved in those negotiations. And so the White House has opted to just let Democrats, who are going to have to deal with Republicans anyway up there on the Hill in the coming weeks and in the next year, to negotiate this themselves. And look, the longer he stays out of this, the less likely he himself can be blamed for any of it. And while the president-elect and the vice president-elect are blaming the Biden administration for this, what Democrats turn around and say is, no, look, we're here. We cut a deal with you. We were on board with that 1,547-page plan that you suddenly rejected because Elon Musk didn't like it. You could go back to that, and we'd sign it right away.
Yeah, that's sort of, I was thinking about that earlier, Ed, when I was having a conversation with Caitlin. I just don't see how, even though the president-elect is trying to hang this on Biden and the Democrats, that the American people would perceive it as such. And so very, very quickly, in your mind, if this deal does not happen, what does this portend sort of for the next couple of years? I mean, I know this is just one. We find ourselves at this moment often in every year we talk about something like this, but I just sort of wonder if this is a signal of the way things might play out over the course of the next 4 years.
It is, if Republicans don't want to negotiate with Democrats. Look, you can get things through either of these chambers with just Republican votes if all the Republicans agree. But when it comes to spending matters, they don't. There is serious disagreement with about 40 House Republicans who continue to say, I don't want to vote for these kinds of short-term spending deals that just grow the deficit, that don't cut anything while we try to spend more money. They've been elected on that principle. They will live and die by that principle. And so we'll see if they can sort things out amongst themselves. If they can't, then yeah, there'll be a lot of gridlock, or eventually they'll come around and figure they got to negotiate with Democrats.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Ed, thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.